Welcome you all to our seventh Beyond Maintenance, where we're going to dig into the vendor experience. And I'm really excited about this one. We're constantly hearing at Property Meld about vendor shortage. How do we find vendors? Prospective customers are always wondering, will vendors adopt a Property Meld? So I thought it would be a great conversation to just see what's going on out there with everybody and what's being done to address this. So just to get before I kick it off, also, if this is your first time with Beyond Maintenance, we like to keep the audience engaged. So feel free to drop your questions into the questions, the Q&A portion of this, or the chat, and we'll answer them with the panelists as we work through the webinar. So we'll go ahead and kick off the introductions. Vanessa Cuvedo, she's the maintenance manager for T Square Properties, and I'm going to let you tell everybody about yourself.
Hi, yeah, thank you everyone for having me here. My name is Vanessa Quevedo, and I work at T Square Properties in the Greater Seattle area. We have about 570, 580 doors right now that we take care of. And hi, Anna. I'm getting pop-ups. I'm not used to this. I'm sorry. I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, we have about 500 plus doors that we manage right now, and I have been doing this for about 2.5 years.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Our next panelist is Landon Cooley. He's the CEO and co-founder of PestShare, and he has 17 years in pest management and equally as much with property management.
I appreciate it. My name is Landon Cooley. We're relatively new to the national space in the property management industry with PestShare, but we're a pest control solution designed for property management firms. And so, I've the fourth generation in our family now in the pest control industry. I actually I'm a partner in an actual pest control company as well here in the Boise, Idaho area. And between both companies, I've worked with property managers and in NARPM and the property management space for a long time. And so, totally happy to be here.
Great. Next, we have Ani Ganesan, co-founder of Blue Chip Maintenance. And Blue Chip serves over 80 property management companies. And I'm going to let you take over from there, Ani.
Thank you, Madison, and really appreciative to be here with everybody today. Co-founder of Blue Chip Maintenance. We started the business about 5 years ago. Get to work with my best friend that I've known since we've had braces. And so that's been a really cool experience. We serve over 80 clients, REITs and property management groups. We typically are turning about 500 jobs on a weekly basis. We're just, we're your typical, well, not your typical vendor, your vendor that supports and does more than one thing. So that's the benefit of Blue Chip, but excited to speak.
Excellent. And last but not least, Andrew Coburn, operations manager for Robert C. White and Company. And you guys are based out of Connecticut. You want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madison. Happy to be here. So like Madison said, my name is Andrew Coburn. I'm the operations manager for Robert C. White and Company. 26 years old, but I've been doing property management since I was about 17. So I actually interned with Robert C. White and Company for my 4 years in college, and then got a position as a property manager out of school. And I'm coming up on 5 years now full time. So got to transition into the operations role about 2 to 3 years ago to help kind of build the processes and make the company better. So really excited about that aspect of the role and helping, other people if possible.
That's awesome. Well, so glad to have everyone here. This is my biggest panel yet. So very exciting. And feel free to jump in and I'll ask one question. And if you have an answer or can relate to that, we'll just keep this a really casual conversation. So digging in, the vendor shortage, is this something that, you know, we're hearing constantly? And how are you guys feeling? What's happening in this realm with you? And Vanessa, I'll let you get started.
Wow, vendor shortage. Yes, it is an everyday struggle for us just to get, I mean, it's not even only vendors, it's like parts. Nobody has parts. We have people waiting for appliances for maybe 3 months, and the parts are still nowhere to be found. Vendors keep rescheduling because of either not enough people or somebody got sick or you name it, and it's just a hassle trying to find people that can actually go out and do the jobs.
So I feel like we have a really good representation from all across the United States with this too. So we have Washington, Connecticut, Florida, Boise, Idaho. Andrew, how are things on the other side of the country?
Pretty similar, it seems like. So we have similar issues. We've got, and specifically parts are definitely an issue right now. Appliances, parts for garage doors, you know, even just simple materials that contractors are trying to get a hold of that were once considered really easy have now become a lot more difficult. And so it's kind of a combination of the parts, and then we're also experiencing a lot of labor shortages. We have a plumber that we use that in the past year and a half, they had 3 to 4 plumbers on their staff that just decided they didn't want to do plumbing anymore. And so they stopped. And so they have so much work that they didn't used to work weekends, but they're working weekends just to catch up and try to stay ahead of demand. But we're seeing that across all of the trades. So not just plumbing, but HVAC, handymen, you know, electricians. So we're seeing it across the board as well.
Ani, are you seeing like difficulties with staffing and like meeting this increase in demand because of other shortages of what would have been competitors around you?
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously it's tough to find skilled tradespeople right now. And, you know, to give you an idea, one of the notes that I wrote down last year, our spend on recruiting for tradespeople was over $120,000 just on the recruiting process. So we spend a lot of money on recruiting tradespeople. So especially licensed stuff, licensed plumbers, electricians, and we serve, you know, we're based out of Florida, our home office, but we serve North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. We're about to be moving into Ohio. And in all those markets, I would say even specifically in Georgia, Atlanta, very, very competitive. And it's tough to not only find them licensed plumbers, but, you know, or HVAC or electricians, but then also to retain them. So, but I do think there are some things that can be done to do those things, to get those things accomplished.
Absolutely. And Landon, you're in, you know, pest control, and how do you see, what are you guys experiencing?
Yeah, you know, very similar. We've, you know, we support a national market with PestShare, and, you know, just a little background with PestShare. We ultimately, we amenitize PestShare. We offer that to all the tenants of the clients that we work for. And part of our role in that is to alleviate your maintenance division. So a lot of the pains we feel as a company are similar to that of a property management company. We have a robust vendor network. Right now we're in 25 different states, and when we go into a new market, especially, we have to scale really fast. We have a short time period in which our goal is to obtain 3 service providers that are reputable, that can support all of our needs and all of the zip codes we cover. And our expectation of that vendor is really just a cusp above the industry standard for the property management industry. And so it's a tough challenge. And yeah, like we're already starting to scale and inject more resources and personnel into this part of our company because, you know, in our case, it doesn't cost to be a vendor with us. We don't take a percentage away from the work that they do for us. And so we're literally giving them free work. It's free revenue for them. And it's tough to just get them on the phone. And so we have to deploy a lot of resources just to set up that call. And yeah, it's just obvious. People are busy. People are short staffed, limited availability. And luckily, we've been able to create a lot of incentives and really invest in those relationships to make sure it's worthwhile for them and make it work. But it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. And Ani, you mentioned you guys have made some like changes to combat this. Let's dig into some of those. And I'm interested what everybody else has done, because I don't think this is going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean,
For the better.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
I think that, just with what's happening in the world today, and you've got, a lot of these people that are job hopping. What is it called? The resignation something?
Mm-hmm.
The Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of people looking, but, I don't think that people are just looking for pay. I think there are things that you can do on the culture side. And I think Landon referenced some of that, as far as incentives and things that you can do to benefit them, whether it's more PTO. We really focus on having a high culture, high recognition organization. So that's something that Matt, my business partner, and I grew up in. We both worked for the same company, worked there for 18 years. I worked there for 14 years. Same company that Thad, who's with Second Nature, worked with and got his start, and actually cut quite a few people in this industry. That organization taught us how to recognize people and retain. And so I think that recognition, making your people feel good, having fun, and it's tough too with COVID as well, having events and those sorts of things, socials, but we're getting back to some of that. We're going to a Rays game here soon. So I do think that helps with retaining some of the people. I also think one of the other things that you can do is pay more. Now you do have to manage some things differently. We've really tried to leverage, because material expenses are crazy. And then, you've got the shortage of materials that causes delays, but trying to leverage some of our relationships and buying more in bulk so that we can afford to maybe spend more in some other areas to gain those licensed plumbers, licensed electricians, HVAC techs. So yeah, you've got to pay competitive, make sure you know where that competition lies. And then I also think having consistent reviews as well. And I know I'm speaking more to property managers, but I think this is good even internally in your organization. We do a 6-month review out of the gate, a year review where they get 2 opportunities to get pay raises. And, of course, we know where inflation's at right now. You've got to make sure that your people are succeeding as well too in life. So making sure that those raises are kind of consistent with what's happening in the world. That's how you're going to keep your people.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at, these, what they're doing on their end as vendors, Andrew, are you feeling anything like, are the costs affecting you guys? You're having to make changes around that, and how that kind of trickles down through your operation?
Yeah,
I think Ani's definitely onto something that's probably happening across the board, supply and demand.
Yeah, and it's a great question, and a lot of vendors that we've used in the past, we have seen their prices go up. And I talked to one of our HVAC vendors that we've been, we have a really good relationship with, and he was honest. He said we're seeing about 10% increases, and we don't see that coming back down or stopping anytime soon. And so he anticipates over the next year or so, it's going to be about another 10% increase in prices. And so I actually did see a note in the chat, I think it was from Casey Barton, that she likes the idea of having 3 vendors set up in each industry. We completely agree. And I think one of the things that we've done more is we call it a vendor network or a vendor roster, but we're expanding that and diversifying that in each trade. And we talk a lot about being only as good as our vendors. Maintenance is the hard part of the job. Collecting rent is typically pretty easy, but if maintenance was easy, a lot of property managers wouldn't exist. And so it's our goal to make maintenance as efficient and run as well as possible. And we're only able to do that as well as our vendors are. And so it's a constant, continuous effort of finding new vendors, sourcing vendors, and keeping that roster updated with people that we want to keep using. So that's one thing that we've made a dedicated effort to, is finding people that we like to work with, that we trust, that communicate well, and that are going to provide us with good prices. We set expectations up front that, look, we're growing and we want to help you grow if that's what you're interested in. But this is a partner relationship, and we need to know that you're going to be able to offer us pricing that is competitive in the market, as opposed to just gouging us, because we're going to give you work in essence. You don't have to go find it, and you're going to be able to grow if we can grow. So those are two of the things that I think, we've been doing to, we've done it in the past, but now with everything that's going on with labor shortages and issues finding vendors, I think it's important to keep your vendor roster updated and continue to look for new vendors, even if you think you're in a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael just posted a question. How has your pricing changed to your owners and PMCs as a result of the current economic situation?
Yeah, so our pricing to our owners hasn't changed. So we don't mark up maintenance. We don't charge for maintenance, and we don't have any maintenance people on staff. So all of our vendors that we have, they're all 1099 subcontractors that we're reaching out to, and they have and run their own businesses. And so we, like I said, we don't charge for maintenance in our management agreement. We have a program it's a preferred vendor program, and we take a percentage from the vendor. So the vendor actually, we call it a marketing fee, but we take a percentage of our preferred vendor's total invoice. And so part of that program is, again, you're going to get to work with, our systems, and we use Property Meld. So a lot of our vendors love using that because it's super easy and super transparent, makes billing for them easy, communication with us and the tenants easy. So they get to use Property Meld. And like I said, they're growing, as we grow, they get to grow. So, if they're going to do good by us, we're going to be doing good by them and sending them more business. And so it's, like I said, that partnership, so that we get a percentage of the work that we're sending them, because they don't have to go and find that work themselves. And so we sell all of that up front. We set the expectation up front, but we haven't increased, pricing to our owners.
And Vanessa, if I'm correct, you guys don't either, right?
Correct. We have our own maintenance company for T Square. We have Fast Track, and their prices have stayed pretty much the same. And we don't increase prices to the owners either. We also use the preferred vendor agreement with our vendors. What we have done is we are sharing the knowledge with the owners. We talk to them, we let them know, hey, listen, there's a shortage around, prices are increasing. Whatever you paid last year is not going to be the same thing that you're paying now. So we're making them aware of the situation, so it's not a surprise when it comes to paying those invoices at the end.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you think, in talking, sorry, did anybody else?
Oh no, I was gonna ask, because I think I saw this from Property Meld. It's a great platform, obviously, and there's lots of cool data that Ray pulls out. I think I saw a post on LinkedIn that Ray posted about invoicing prices, and I think it was HVAC, if I remember. And the increase, I think, in about a year and a half was 20%. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So pre-COVID, Ray got on his a little video and dropped on to, or not pre-COVID, right in the middle of COVID, saying, watch for it. It's coming. He predicted a 19% increase in invoice pricing. And it is, his last data dig was showing around 20. So yeah, it's happening, and it's how to maintain that and maintain a profitable business is really, how can you put in different systematic operations in there to become more efficient? And that is the name of the game right now, for sure.
Yeah, I can echo that. And here at PestCom, again, separate from Pesha, our local pest control company, we did a 3% price increase last year on just our local customer base here. Kind of a little more routine, but starting to feel the effects. We did a 15% price increase this year, and that was as a result of we had to do company-wide raises. We implemented healthcare. We had to increase all of our benefits to retain, and then we started seeing products literally double. We have couple products that even tripled in price. And so plus fuel, but we have 20 vehicles out on the road every day, and the maintenance and fuel costs, the vehicles themselves all cost more. And so I think that number is about dead on. I mean, 15-20% is totally what we've had to increase to just to survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't have Deb Newell on this because she'd definitely be chiming in the chat, talking about, we talk about there's two different schools of thought. There's the not charging for maintenance, and then making a profit off of maintenance in the property management. So if she's watching the recording, she'll be missed on this conversation for sure. But in addition to the additional costs and that impact on the owners, when we have this shortage and the delays that it can cause in getting work done, then you start having this ripple effect with resident satisfaction too. Are you guys having any issues getting work done efficiently, like within, and this is something Property Meld has a lot of data on too, that we've dug into, speed of completion in correlation to resident satisfaction. As soon as those HVAC issues exceed, 5 days, you start seeing that very significant drop. So how do you mitigate that during this time too?
Communication. I think that's the most important.
Yeah.
So communication is the most important thing that has to happen from the property manager that's dealing with the resident, and then also the company that is going to go service, or the vendor, and the communication's got to be good between the property the property management group and the vendor as well. So that's why I love a platform like Property Meld, where it's, not to, plug that what's going on, but we use a bunch of different platforms with the 80 clients. Some of them are built in, or ones that the actual company made. And, just having some sort of communication platform, even if it's just via email, but making sure that you have a relationship with the vendor where what's happening with that job, so that if there was a special order door that's needed and that resident might not know that, well, at least the vendor being able to put that in, hey, door was ordered, delivery is expected in 3 weeks, or whatever it is. Now, when that resident calls the property manager at least has that note to say, oh yeah, they already ordered this door, it's coming here in 3 weeks. So everybody's in line.
Yeah, just to play off that, I think communication is probably the most important thing, and I think it's a lot of expectation setting as well. So just up front, when a work order comes in, it's, we have a maintenance coordinator on staff, so we try to have her reaching out, ideally right away and saying, hey,
Oh shoot, we lost you. We lost your sound, Andrew. I think you might be frozen too. Is everybody else having issues hearing him, or is it just me?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
Okay. How about now?
There we go.
There you go. You're back.
Sorry about that. But what I was saying is expectation setting, I think, is super important, so that tenants are aware up front that, look, this is when we expect something like this to be taken care of. This is how long we expect, something to take in lead times. Because if you have if they put in a work order and then someone's assigned and then no one can get out there for 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 days, tenants get upset. But if you're proactive in your communication and you're letting them know, look, I've called 3 or 4 vendors and this is the soonest I can get. I can get someone there tomorrow, in 2 days, or in 4 days. And I picked the soonest one available because I want to make sure that someone's getting there. That makes tenants usually feel a little more relieved that you're actually doing work, as opposed to just sitting there not doing anything. Mm-hmm. So I think the expectations are up front are important. And then, like Ani said, the communication. Even if you don't have an update, sometimes the best update is that you don't have an update. Mm-hmm. And just letting them know, hey, just want to give you an update. I called the vendor today to understand where the parts are. He doesn't have an update for me, but I wanted to pass that along. And so constant communications that tenants feel like they're being heard and their problems are actually being solved.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty much the same thing, making sure that we're communicating to the vendors, the owners, and the tenants is very important. Because sometimes you have the owner in one side saying, hey, what's going on? and we just have to say the same thing. We are reaching out to everyone. Everybody knows that the part is not there yet. When you call, let's say, when you call Whirlpool, ETA is unknown at this time. So as long as we let them know what's going on, and we let them know, hey, listen, we're following up with the vendors every week. We're trying to do whatever we can to make sure that the parts get there. The vendors are going to be able to go out, or we call 2 or 3 different vendors and see which one has the soonest availability so they can go out. We do a lot of things, but as long as you're communicating, then you're good. Because if you're doing everything on your end and the tenant doesn't know that you're working, then they feel like it's not important to you. And that's the most important thing, letting the tenant know that you're working for them and that you are making sure that all their needs are taken care of.
I think
Absolutely.
I was going to just kind of follow up with what Vanessa said. I think, that sense of empathy and living in the problem with them as well is so important. When you're communicating with that resident, whether it's us as a vendor or that property manager, understanding, hey, if they don't have hot water, that's a big deal. Imagine if your family didn't have hot water and you couldn't give your child, a warm bath, right? So we need to live in that problem with them as well too. And sometimes we can't solve it immediately, but at least having that sense of empathy and understanding where they're coming from, I think is huge.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I think something that helps on this for us, in pest control, just kind of the industry standard throughout our industry is to be very communicative with the whoever the resident is. And so at PastShare, when we send out a work order ultimately to our vendors, we kind of play on that and we put expectation on the vendor to extend that customer service just as if they were one of their own customers. The expectation is probably even a little bit more on them from the time of the distribution of the work order to be in contact and be updating the tenant than it is from us PastShare, although we are providing updates and whatnot along the process. And so we do ask that of them of just, hey, please, here's their information. Please contact them. Let them know when you're on your way. Let them know if there's any issues. Make sure you have access. Just basic customer service, which I think sometimes because we're dealing with renters, with tenants, sometimes a vendor might think that it's whatever. I don't have to offer that primo customer service. And we don't really put up with that. We absolutely expect them to treat them like the best customer in the world. And I think, companies like Blue Chip be a great example. I mean, you see successful companies in the space, and that's why they're successful, because they treat everybody with the utmost respect and best customer service.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the service has even got to be on a higher level than if you're just a B2C, because sometimes you're seeing that same person multiple times. Also, with us, we're dealing with, clients that are sending us work orders for years and years and years. We've got to deliver great service. That comes down to the people that are going and doing the actual job, so, I think that's crucial.
I think that's also very important for us as property managers when we're looking to see which vendor we're going to send the job to. It's like when the vendor goes out, they're not only representing their company, they're representing us as a property management company. So if you have people that are not reliable, that are not checking in with the tenants, letting them know what's going on, that reflects bad on us. And we are the ones that are going to get the bad reviews saying, hey, nobody ever let us know what's going on. But it's like, no, I mean, we did, but the vendor is not responsive. So it's very important for us as managers to find vendors that are going to be good at communication with everyone, not only us, but the tenants as well.
So do you feel like this, you always talk about like a buyer's market or seller's market, the flip back and forth. Is it safe to say that now is kind of a vendor's market and it's not so easy to pick and choose through your vendors? You're kind of like selling yourself to the vendor. Are you experiencing that? Has it gotten that bad yet? You use property melt, so probably not.
It depends. It depends, I guess, on which vendor we're talking about. Like, for example, if we're having a hard time finding electricians, there's like a shortage on electricians. Appliances vendors, we have a lot of them, but not everybody works on the same type of appliance. You have some that do not do GE, or you have another one that don't do top of the line appliances. So you have to have a pretty big pool of vendors that you can reach out every time that you need something. but being able to communicate with them, I have been doing since last year, I have been doing lunch. We'll just go and say, hey, listen, what can we do to gain your business? Like we want to make sure we're doing everything we can so that you are comfortable going out to our jobs, but we also need this from you. Like this is what we need to make sure that we can keep giving you jobs, and just having that one-on-one conversation has been very, very important, because then they know where we're coming from. And I go like, okay, you have any problems with the system, with property mail? Oh, we're getting a lot of notifications. Oh, that's very easy. This is how you fix it, and we'll just go and solve whatever small problem they have, and then everything works great.
Vanessa, I think that's huge. Having meetings with your vendors, especially vendors that are doing a good bit of work for you, having that relationship. I was reading a post the other day and I thought this was great. It's, when we're in business, sometimes we think of it as a business transaction and we kind of operate in that mode. But if you operated in the mode of, hey, this is my friend, or this is somebody I'm connected to, right? Friends are more willing to go do things, or maybe do a favor, go do that Sunday call when maybe they don't typically work on Sundays, but they really want to help you out and take care of you. Maybe give you a break on pricing because you know that you've got a tricky owner over here. And so when you have that relationship with the vendors, I know we're willing to do more for those clients that we have that relationship with, that even just give us the time of having a monthly call, because we want to know where we stand with them as well too. I believe in that saying, no surprises, right? I want to try to avoid surprise. Now that happens, right? You can't prevent everything, but if we can avoid surprises and we can get in front of things and have a monthly call, or some clients, we have a biweekly call with our account managers to make sure that we're looking at every work, we're checking everything off. That I think makes a big difference. And then just having a good relationship with them. Don't look at them as a vendor. We don't look at our clients as a client. We look at them as partners. Hey, it's a win-win situation. We want their reviews going up. We want our reviews going up. We want everybody's reviews going up. We want those residents happy.
Yeah, I'll speak to that too. We really put a lot of value on our vendor network within PestShare, and I actually personally take every vendor call. Like when we have a pest control company that wants to onboard, I set up a call with the owner of that company or whatever key person in that company, and it's just to show the value of it. When we are reaching out to them, we're connecting with them, we start vetting them. The goal is not to just here's a work order, we'll just see how you do. It's like, no, we're going to send you through this extensive process to make sure you're the right fit, and then we want to set up a indefinite relationship with you. We want you to be with us 5 years from now, giving you more work. We want a dedicated technician because of what we provide to you, whatever. And I think they definitely feel from the get-go that, we're willing to go all in and we're willing to prioritize you and take care of you. Of course, we expect the same in return. And I think sometimes what can happen is that relationship of just, here's a work order, I bid it out for me, or here, I need to get this taken care of. And it feels like, you just need me to kind of give you a Band-Aid solution versus creating a relationship. And I think when it is a renter or a vendor's market versus maybe a property manager's market, the relationships is what totally evens the playing field. And, when things downturn and it's really tough and the vendors are desperate, those relationships that they've established and held to are going to be what saved their bacon.
Absolutely.
Can I offer another idea? Just me thinking about it from the other side. I think because it might be this situation where it's a vendor's market, right? If that's what we're saying, I think one thing that you can do easily that will separate you. We work with 80 different clients, and one of the easiest things that you could do to keep vendors, especially when they're good, is pay them on time. Pay them on time, and they will want to show up. Do not make it difficult for them to get payments, because I can tell you, we've got some companies and very big companies where it becomes difficult, and I could see them just churning through, vendors because of that. So,
yeah.
Amen.
So I want to take a minute here and pivot back into the preferred vendors and kick it off with James' question for Andrew. What percentage of each invoice do you retain from your preferred vendors? Is it different for each vendor?
Yeah, good question. So for each of our vendors, regardless of the trade, it's the same percentage. So we do a 10%.
Oh no.
Oh, I lost you again.
Oh, Andrew, we can't hear you.
Get into it too.
I think it's at 10%.
Yeah. There you're back.
My internet says I have a strong signal, so I'm not sure what's going on. But we do 10% for each vendor, so regardless of the trade. So if the invoice is $100, then we're taking 10%, the $10 there. So we let vendors know upfront that that's the percentage. And again, that's just for those who want to be part of the preferred vendor program. It's not everybody, but for those who don't want to be involved in it, we let them know that we're still going to work with them, but that we likely are going to look for other people at the same time.
How about you, Vanessa? Because you guys also you'd mentioned have a preferred vendor program.
I believe it's pretty much the same thing. I don't know exactly what percentage the company charges for them, but it's pretty much the same thing. When you're a part of our preferred vendor, we give you the first right of refusal. So we're gonna go to you first, make sure that you can take care of it in a timely manner and you can meet our expectations. And then if you cannot, then we'll go over to the next vendor.
Ani, are you guys in any preferred vendor programs with the property managers you guys work with?
Yeah, meaning some sort of, or when you say preferred vendor program, meaning like some sort of exclusivity or set pricing. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, definitely. First key, we have exclusivity with their water heaters. We give them a preferred price. We get them in bulk, so we give them a very discounted rate. And we do that with other property management groups. We'll have a premier price list and trade for volume. So, yep.
Do you guys do the same thing, Landon?
So with PestShare, with PestCom, we do here locally in Idaho. We're very active in our Southwest Idaho and NARPM chapter. We support most of the property managers here, and that's totally our expectation. We don't in PestShare because our product is a revenue generator, so we don't really need to. But it totally seems that that's the industry standard.
I'd be interested in, for those people in the audience, how many of you are doing a preferred vendor program, and is this something that you just have always done, or kind of started just recently during the shortage? That'd be great if you commented on that in the chat.
And when you say, Madison, preferred vendor, are you saying that the property management group would create a price list, so to speak, and say, hey, this is where we need you to be? Where
Andrew and Vanessa are talking about, we're going to, discount it. You're going to offer us a discount, and we'll make sure you have first right of refusal on jobs as they come through.
And we evaluate it on a quarterly basis. So we have, we look at all of our vendors. We have a quarterly vendor meeting, and we evaluate each one of them. And it's a pretty long, extensive list. We print it out and we go through all of them and say, should this person still be working for us? Yes or no? And we're getting more into it and actually starting to formulate grades for vendors so that it's quicker and we can just look and say, all right, you're an A, we want to ask you to be a preferred vendor, or you're a C, we probably shouldn't be using you and we need to look for somebody else to fill your spot, sort of thing.
Oh, no.
I love what he was talking about, though. I'll kind of jump in. I think he's talking about some really good stuff. And I think, Madison, on your platform, you have the ability to give the ratings to the property management group. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So, and that's what was going to be my follow-up. And I don't like to plug MELD when we're doing this because it's more thought leadership. But is there specific data that you're tracking and able to track through MELD that makes that decision process easier?
We look at time of completion for the vendors. We look at the tenant ratings on them as well. And another thing that I like to track is how many times after you go out do I have to call you so you can come back because something was not done right. So if I have a lot of callbacks, that's a red flag. And it's like, you know what, the vendor, the quality of the vendor is not as good as it was before. So maybe we should stop using them for a while and then try again at a later time.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. Are there any other questions? I I just got some bad kickback.
Madison, I just wanted to, maybe while questions come in, I think this, word relationships is just echoed in my mind throughout this whole conversation. And I think, we're all real fortunate in this space to have a lot of ability to network. I mean, between NARPM and the other organizations, there's several great organizations within the space. And I just say, back in, 2010, when I started my local pest control company here, I was out pounding on doors trying to get business. NARPM was one of the first places I went to try to tap into the property management space. And like those relationships just totally, really helped us get through a time that was hard, and they've only blossomed in times that are good. And so I think investing in vendor relationships, and then as, of course, as vendors, just I know like our property managers aren't always, again, more on this vendor side, aren't always our biggest clients or the biggest revenue producers, but they're consistent. And I think good vendors recognize that and see the value in that. And it's wise to really put a lot of effort and resources into those relationships, because they're consistent. They may not be the biggest, they're not usually the smallest, but they're consistent.
Yeah, that consistency is great.
Madison, I had one other thing too that I have written down in my notes that I think might be of value to the property managers. When you get a good vendor or somebody that you feel comfortable with, I think it's good to have now that review process, as Andrew was talking about, you want to be doing that consistently, monthly, quarterly, looking at what they're doing and make sure things still stay in the same line. But I think having a good D&E, to allow those vendors to go out and do work that you trust, right? That creates less friction for you, as long as they're not gouging. But that's why I said, hey, once you built that relationship and you feel very confident with somebody, extending that D&E, and then especially if they're doing larger jobs, even maybe giving it to them a little bit more so that you don't have to go back and forth, which just eats up time out of the day. And as we all know, time is money. So again, it's got to be the right situation, but trust but verify, of course, always. But
yes, definitely. Absolutely. That's very important. And the tenants are your biggest ally in that sense. Like whenever you send a vendor out, always reach back out to the tenant and be like, how is that? How was the vendor? How was your experience? Are you satisfied? How did they treat you? They are the ones who are getting the service. So if the tenant is happy, then you can keep using that vendor. But if the tenant goes back and say, for example, we had a lot of feedback one time that, hey, the vendor keeps refusing to use a mask and I don't feel comfortable, I didn't let them in. Those are things that you have to go back and go to your vendor and be like, hey, listen, what's going on? We cannot have this. Like we need you. If you're not gonna follow our criteria, then we're not gonna be able to keep using you. So it's very important that you have that open communication with everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, communication, relationships.
And I think giving positive feedback to vendors too is good. We like to give, when we get ratings and feedback from tenants, that is good. We share it with the vendor, and they really appreciate that, because it's the same thing. They want to hear that they're doing a good job. So we like to share that with them.
What you appreciate. So, yep, you get a good vendor, you want to take care of them. You want them there with you, like Landon said, 5-10 years down the road.
Yes, definitely. We do that too. Whenever we get very good feedback, I just kind of copy and paste and be like, oh my God, look at what they said about you, and just keep going with that friendship that we're developing. It's not only you are another number to us, it's just a friendship that we're developing so that we both can grow.
Awesome. George has a question. Do you guys send out vendor agreements when onboarding them?
I do. That's one of the first things that I do, because on our vendor agreement, it explains what our criteria is. It says, hey, these are our fair housing rules. This is what you need to make sure you do. This is how we're going to pay you. We set up all of those expectations up front, and we also require them to provide proof of the liability insurance, workers' comp, all of that, because we have to make sure we have good vendors going out. So if I don't get that vendor package that says that this is how you are going to behave and I'm licensed and insured to work, then I'm not giving you a work order.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pest Share, again, we operate very similar to a property management operation. And so we, Yeah, we have extensive vendor agreements, and again, we even kind of up the ante a little bit what we expect insurance wise, just to make sure everything's good. And one thing I'll throw in there too, we have a kind of an onboarding vetting process that we go through with them, and one of them is making sure that they're willing to use any sort of software. So, like, again, another plug for Property Meld. Like, if I was a property manager and I use Property Meld, you just want to double check and make sure that vendor is either familiar with or willing to learn that, because some vendors aren't, and you want to identify that. You don't have to shift all your processes around one vendor. And so we have a proprietary software we use, and we make sure you are totally, on board and open to utilizing that for all your work orders.
Yeah, we do a lot of that similar stuff, especially what Vanessa said. We when we find a new vendor, we'll usually do a 1 to 2 work order, more or less tryout, where we'll make sure they're licensed and insured, but we're not going to put you in Property Meld. We're not going to send you our vendor agreement. We're not going to do that until we make sure that you're going to work the way that we want you to work. So we usually test vendors for 1 or 2 work orders and send them an email or a text with all the information, just to see, are they going to schedule with the tenant? Are they going to communicate with us when it's scheduled? Are they going to follow up? Do I need to send them back? Then I can get feedback from the tenant. Because if I send them to 1 work order and they do a terrible job and there's no communication and don't service the tenant correctly, well, then I don't want to work with them again. And so I'm not going to go through all the trouble of, doing the rest of the stuff if I know, all right, that was a one-off thing and I'm not going to do it. So we kind of try vendors out 1, 2 fold. And then once I know that I want to keep using them going forward, then I'll have, another conversation with them and say, hey, would love to keep sending you business, would love to build an ongoing and lasting relationship. Here's what, we'd like to see going forward. Here's our vendor agreement, et cetera, et cetera.
Great. This was a really good conversation. I hope the audience got as much out of it as I did. And, I talk with property managers a lot and don't get a lot of time to spend on the vendor end of things. So this was an exciting one to have. So thank you all for being here. And I'm going to do a quick plug. Monday, we are launching our workflows feature. So if you are a Property Meld customer, you will see that pop up in your Property Meld app as of Monday. And if you're not a Property Meld customer, head to the website, learn more about it. It's awesome. There's taking the current Property Meld experience and taking it to a whole new level with more automation and eliminating those mundane things that slow you down. And March 10th, we will be doing what we're calling a lunch and launch. We'll have our CTO and co-founder, David Kingman, will be on this. And 2 other melders and a customer will be diving in and showing you workflows in action. So Liz is going to drop the link for that registration in there, and the first 50 people to register, lunch is on Meld. So we'll be shooting out DoorDash gift cards for everybody after you get registered. So look forward to that. Next, beyond maintenance, we're going to dig into burnout in the property management world and maintenance specifically. So that'll be March 24th, and look forward to seeing everybody there.
Thank you, everybody.
Good.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Madison.
Thanks, Madison. We'll see you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See ya.